My cat recently got diagnosed with diabetes, which is kind of a bummer. All things considered though, she's actually doing pretty great. We just have to be mindful that we write down what times we gave her insulin so that way there's not too much of a gap in time. But the way in which we've been writing everything down has actually been handwriting everything, which is kind of annoying as a software developer. So, as any sane, rational software developer would do, I'm going to be building an electronic medical record system from the ground up for my cat, my wife, and I. So, welcome to PetMed. But first, let's talk about the Covalence Plus membership. So, instead of watching YouTube videos, invest in yourself and learn how to become a programmer as well. Our Covalence Plus membership lets you have access to all of our courses with hundreds of hours of lecture videos and walkthroughs, dozens of labs, and you get access to Higgs, our AI teaching assistant. You can even submit your labs to Higgs and get a near instantaneous lab review within seconds, personalized to your specific solution, which is really, really cool. On top of that, you also get access to a really awesome community of developers and instructors. Right now, we are running a limited time offer for 6 months for $199, which is a phenomenal value. But even if you don't want to do that quite yet, you can go ahead and try it out for just a month and see how you like it. And yeah, let's go ahead and invest in yourself and hang out with, that guy. And I'll catch you in Discord hopefully soon. So to talk about the actual project structure. Now, I did get started with this like a month and a half ago when she first got diagnosed. So I do have some code already, but then I sunset it after like a weekend or something. And I haven't really gotten back to it since, so I do want to get that done. So I'm going to do a YouTube series to force me to continue coding it out. But let's look at what we always look at when getting started by looking at the database structure. So starting off, we've got a lot of kind of interconnected functionality. We've got lots of keys, trying to make sure everything is tied pretty consistently. But let's look at our kind of two primary tables, users and pets. Starting off with users, we've got a name, email, password, image URL is verified, created at, updated at. Everything's going to be using UUIDs. I'm using Postgres here, so I'm having it just generate random UUIDs for everything, just trying to keep it as easy as possible for us. So those are the attributes we are having defined for our users table. For our pets table, we have just some demographic info about the pet, ID, name, species, birth date, in case we want to celebrate or something. And I keep forgetting our pets' birth dates, so I kind of really want this column. Maybe I can set up reminders in this app. A little profile image, a weight. I said small int. We might actually need int for some of these pets. And then we've got household ID, which is foreign key to this household table. So right now, pets is primarily just demographic info, but we've got that household table. So let's talk about what that is and its purpose. So household is kind of just that, a household. The intent of this app is my wife also pet sits. And so she might have multiple households that she's present at, ours and also maybe one she's temporarily house sitting for. And so the intent is to be able to manage multiple households separately instead of consolidating all pets under a specific user. In addition to that, having a household allows for a user households structure, which allows multiple people to be linked under one household. And that is pretty critical because I need her and I to both be able to access our household and administer it. In addition to that, if I decide to dump this on GitHub and like people actually start using it, well, this works out for a public facing application structure. It might not actually just be a single serving thing. So there could be some utility from that. So trying to think of the greater public with this in mind, but user households, you can belong to multiple households with this, and a household may have multiple users. So that's the intent behind that. Additionally, in the event it is used by the greater public, every household that gets created has an owner ID property, which is keyed back to the users table. So that way, whoever has that is the household administrator, more or less, and that will allow you later to add people to your household or remove them. So in the event she did have some of the families she pet sits for start using this app, they can maintain their own household with their own pets and then selectively add her when they want her to pet sit and remove her if they felt so inclined. And so that future functionality is something that is also feasible. Now, the intent of this app is like for pet medication administration. So, we're just talking about kind of like demographic setup at first, but now we've got a medications table. We've got this dosage units table over here. I'm not sure if I really do want that or not, but the intent for that is like, I have like milligrams, grams, capsules, tablets, units for insulin. So it's just kind of a raw like string table. But I'm just doing that to maybe have like an easier way of like selecting a drop down for adding a new medication. So I might not actually need that, but I do have it included nevertheless. Medication. Got quite a good bit of columns. We've got the ID of the medication, the name of the medication, the pet that medication is associated with, and the respective dosage amount and unit for it. So this would be like, okay, insulin, Scout's ID, dosage amount would be 1, unit would be units for insulin. So she's thankfully on a low dose, but we still want to make sure we get the time right, so that's why. Start date, it is like the day in which you start the medication. End date is when you're going to stop. I don't know how long, these medications may last. So for a lot of pets, I just have 10 years getting added from the current timestamp if you don't provide an end date. Any like notes you need to add, special notes or whatever about administration, we've got a text field there. And then we've got, the respective foreign keys linked up. Pet ID links to the pet table. Dosage unit is linked to the dosage units table. So that's just the raw medication for a pet. It has nothing to do like when it's, actually scheduled, like the time. Which brings us to the medication schedule. So medication schedule gets a unique ID for a, medication scheduled object. We have the scheduled time, the time at which it should be administered, the ID of which medication it is. So really the point of this is going to be like, okay, for a pet, you might have an AM and PM insulin dose, which is what this would represent. So I would have like a medication schedule ID. That object would have like 8 AM. Medication ID would be whatever Scout's specific medication is. And then a similar PM dose. So every time you give a specific medication, each one of those gets a unique medication schedule. And finally, the medication log, which is tying everything together. We have an ID for every log entry. We have the medication ID saying which medication it is. We've got the scheduled medication ID, so you know at which scheduling time it's supposed to be. So your AM, afternoon, PM meds, etc. get linked up there. Administering user ID, that's going to be the user who was, logged in and entering that info in the chart. Administration time, I accidentally duplicated that here, but that's when you type in when you gave it. So like if you say like 8 p.m. or 8:05 p.m., it enters that. I also have a time logged stamp here as kind of like an audit log. So that's something that the user won't be able to provide directly or be able to remove, but it is an unchangeable, instantaneous, timestamp. So that way, you always know exactly when this was entered into the log itself, not necessarily when the medication was written to have been administered. And so we've got, those keys set up. The administering user is linked to the user ID table. The scheduled medication ID is linked to the medication schedule table. And we also have the medication ID, which is also linked to the medication table. So there's a lot of tightly interwoven functionality and connectivity. So we are going to be writing a lot of join statements kind of when compiling the home page eventually. So it will get pretty interesting, but this is pretty much the database architecture that I started with and started coding out. And it feels pretty good to me in its current iteration. I might change something at a later point, but I've already started coding it out and everything kind of feels nice thus far with this. So we'll leave it at that. But anyway, welcome to PetMed, a YouTube series I will hopefully actually complete. Schedulely noted, I still do have plans of going back to and finishing up. We were pretty close to finishing that. I just got sick for like a month and like had a terrible cough and couldn't record anything for YouTube. And I just kind of forgot about the project, but I will get back to that eventually. This, however, it's a little more pressing. I'm a little more interested in that, to be honest, as well. So I really do want to finish this up, and it's already started. So, we've got a few more kind of factors in play, but that's our database architecture. And yeah, I'll drop a link to both our membership in the description, and also I will make a playlist, and I will have a repo available as well, just so that way, if you want to follow along with the code itself, you can. But otherwise, I will catch y'all in the very next installment.